As my son Nathan stared at me with a voice as icy as winter stone, the smell of coffee and treachery filled the kitchen. He remarked, as if requesting a drink of water, "We don't have space for you anymore, Mom. You need to find your own place." I stood there with my heart splintering like old wood, and my hands still wet from dishwashing. I was 60-year-old Evelyn, a widow who had dedicated her life to raising Nathan, who is now 30. His new wife, Sophie, 28, had just accused me of breaking into the house I had assisted them in building. "Okay, I'll be gone by tonight." Nathan nodded, already moving away, and Sophie's eyes glittered with a delight she didn't attempt to disguise. I managed a grin, not phony, not big, just enough to maintain my dignity. They were unaware that I owned half the deed to their ideal home, which would cause their world to collapse by dawn. It all started 6 months ago, when Nathan approached me with a request after being married to Sophie. The bank had denied their mortgage despite their desire to raise a family and buy a 4-bedroom home in a Raleigh suburb. I made the decision without hesitation. I gave my late husband David's life insurance, which paid out $200,000 in full, together with every penny I had saved for my future. With tears in her eyes, Sophie wrapped her arms around me and said, "Evelyn, you'll always have a home with us." Nathan kissed my face and promised that I would never lack for anything. "This is for you," I said to Nathan, my voice calm, despite the pain of letting go, "for the stability of our family." Their words encircled me like a warm, certain comforter, and I believed them. I brought a framed picture of David with his grin captured in time-2 worn pieces of luggage and a folded duvet from my previous bedroom when I moved in. The elegant home boasted polished gray flooring, white walls, and a kitchen that gleamed as if it had never seen spills. I had to shower upstairs since my room was the basement guest suite, which was a small room with a twin bed, no closet, and a half bath. I didn't voice any complaints. Sophie's conversation over supper and Nathan's laughing in the morning were sufficient to replace the void left by David's passing. During the first week, Nathan made my coffee, and Sophie assisted me in using their expensive thermostat. However, she sighed more harshly each time I made a mistake. But the warmth quickly dissipated. When I requested Nathan to hang a shelf for my books, he moaned. By the second week, I overheard Sophie making scathing remarks to friends over wine. "It's like living with an extra kid and a grandma." My Wi-Fi was shut off for days when the modem was relocated to their closed office, and the upstairs fridge was padlocked, which Sophie said was for meal prep. Sophie's voice was crisp and low when I heard her on the phone one evening. "She's nice, but we need our life back." My heart fell, but I remained silent and continued to prepare their meals and fold their towels in the hopes that my presence would serve as a reminder of our shared love. Then a devastating event occurred. Nathan's words abruptly stopped me as I was about to head to the kitchen for tea. He muttered from behind the corner, "If we're too nice, she won't leave. We have to push her out without a fight." Sophie's response was a sharp one. "Make her feel unwelcome, and she'll leave." I remained motionless, gazing at the floral wallpaper I had assisted in selecting, while my son plotted to remove me for a nursery for space or for their convenience. She won't sign over her share, unless it's her idea. As I lay awake that night, David's picture on the bedside table seemed to be asking me why I had allowed this event to occur. I'd treasured every card Nathan had written me with a crayon and raised him through fevers and broken bones, and now I was a problem that needed to be resolved. The following morning, with her arms folded and a phony look of worry on her face, Sophie surrounded me as I was chopping strawberries. "We believe it's time for Evelyn to find a comfortable place of her own." Before I could reply, Nathan entered the room, drinking coffee, and struck the fatal blow. With a maelstrom of sadness and resolution in my heart, I wiped my hands on a dish towel, grinned, and walked away. I packed my bags in my room, along with David's picture, and a red folder hidden at the bottom that had the house deed with my name and Nathan's, my 50% co-ownership, carved next to it. My instinct urged me to be prepared, so I summoned a taxi, discreetly left, without bidding farewell, and carried the weight of their betrayal to the motel where I had previously secured a room. In sharp contrast to the shining mansion I had left behind, the hotel room was a silent prison with a flickering bulb and dingy carpet, with my son Nathan's words, "We don't have space for you," still blazing in my heart. I was a widow bearing the burden of his treachery. With my name on half the deed, they now want Nathan and his wife Sophie had forced me out of the house I had helped construct, with my late husband David's life insurance when I was 30. The house deed evidence of my $200,000 present, and now the catalyst for their downfall, were all included in the red folder that was hidden within my bag. I wasn't yet angry as I sat on the rigid hotel bed, holding that folder in my hands like a priceless artifact. Like a river before it floods, I stood still, waiting for the right opportunity to take action. David's framed picture on the bedside table was watching me through the darkness the first night, and I hardly slept. I played Nathan's voice again, plotting with Sophie to make me feel unwelcome and coerce me into signing my portion for their future and nursery. I had brought him up dressed, his skinned knees supported him throughout his soccer matches, and preserved all of his awkwardly handwritten Mother's Day cards. I was now a line to be crossed, a hindrance to their schemes. I got up early, poured some terrible coffee in a paper cup, and used the motel's old printer to make 5 copies of the Deed 3 for protection against their falsehoods. 1 for me and 1 for a lawyer. Even though I wasn't prepared to fight, I was getting ready because my instincts were as keen as a hawk's. My phone buzzed around midday, but it was an unknown number. After hesitating, I responded. Ms. Carter. Evelyn, calm but clipped a man's voice, inquired. Carolina Trust Lending's Brad. We identify you as a co-owner of 124 Willow Creek Drive. I felt the storm approaching, and my pulse halted. Yes, I said warily. He cleared his throat. A default exists. Nathan Carter, your son, borrowed $100,000 for a business enterprise against the house. There has been no income for several months. I've received 3 notifications. The realization dawned on me not with horror, but with clarity, that foreclosure will commence on Friday, unless we settle the loan. Without telling me, Nathan had gambled away our house, my house. Sophie may have played the innocent or didn't know, both of which made me feel awful. With a firm voice, I requested the documents and hung up, using the room's quiet as a weapon. An hour later, the email came in a chilly list of dates and numbers, my name hidden in fine print, Nathan's signature, on a loan for a marketing firm that failed in a few weeks, and the house as collateral. I picked a blue pen, the same one I had used to sign Nathan's school documents years before, printed it, and signed the release form slowly and methodically, making a severance with each stroke. Brad contacted me to check after I scanned and returned them. He declared, "Foreclosure will proceed." I hung up without saying anything, my hands firm but my heart heavy from what I had let out. Thank you, Ms. Carter. Sophie and Nathan were going to experience what it was like to lose unexpectedly. I kept quiet, didn't call my sister, didn't post anything online, and kept my suffering private. Instead, I went to a corner store, got a tiny bottle of red wine and some peanut butter crackers, and then, in the faint light of the hotel, I toasted myself for choosing myself after years of giving, not for retaliation. Nathan texted me the next morning, asking whether I had canceled anything with the home. We received an odd letter. I didn't respond. Sophie contacted Evelyn a few hours later, saying, "There's a notice on the door. Give us a call." Not out of malice, but as a safeguard against their phony entreaties, I shut off my phone to preserve the silence I was asserting. Their world was collapsing just as they had intended for mine to, and they had wanted me gone. Sophie posted a frantic plea, urgent, on a local Facebook group that afternoon, and I noticed it. A scammer is targeting our house. I need referrals for foreclosure attorneys. As I sipped my hotel coffee, the irony burned, and I let out a sour giggle. She referred to it as a swindle, but the red folder the loan Nathan concealed and the manner in which they had forced me out included the truth. I saved a screenshot of her message, which is another piece of my expanding armor, but I didn't reply or interact. Knowing that Nathan and Sophie would not relinquish their goal lightly, I needed to be ready for their next move. With its worn-out carpet and walls that smelled of onions, the hotel room turned into my haven, a place where I could escape the treachery that had forced me to leave my family. My name was still on half of the deed they planned to claim, and my son Nathan and his wife Sophie had evicted me from the house I had assisted them in purchasing with my late husband David's $200,000 life insurance payment. I could still hear their comments trying to make me feel unwelcome in their nursery. But my strength was the red folder that contained the deed bank documents and now foreclosure paperwork. As the world outside pulsed with their worry, I sat still like a stone in a rushing torrent, waiting for the repercussions to crash. I had signed the release to allow their house to slide into foreclosure when Nathan's hidden $100,000 loan defaulted. Less than 48 hours after I mailed the papers, an orange foreclosure notice appeared on their door at 124 Willow Creek Drive. Although I didn't see it personally, Sophie's panicked Facebook post sparked a public outcry. "A scammer is stealing our house. Please share foreclosure lawyers." Neighbors, acquaintances, and even Nathan's former classmate offered assistance in the flood of comments, all of whom believed her victimization story. But then things took a turn for the worst when Sophie wrote, "We're betrayed by someone we trusted, someone who should have protected us." Even without mentioning my name, the pain was palpable. They were destroying my sacrifice, my house, and my heart, and portraying me as the bad guy. My phone was ringing with texts from friends, from church distant cousins, and even David's sister. "What's up, Evelyn?" As my father said, "Don't wrestle in mud, you'll get dirty, and they'll revel in it." I remained mute. However, the muck continued to spread. With the poignant message, "It hurts when those who raised you turn against you." Nathan shared an old picture of us together, me grinning next to him, ice cream dribbling down his chin at age 5. There were no names, only venomous words intended to alter our story and provoke criticism from others. It was the precision of his decision that made my chest clench, not the anguish. A man who would exchange my love for likes had taken the place of the youngster who used to cry when I worked late shifts. I didn't reply, but I did save the post, another piece of evidence in my expanding collection. As I awaited the next hit, silence served as a firm and sharp protection. On Friday morning, a sheriff's officer phoned in a polite but official tone. "Ms. Officer Tate is here, Carter. We are planning to lock out 124 Willow Creek Drive at 10:00 a.m. today. We're reaching out to you as a designated party, but you're under no obligation to come as you've already signed the release." I thanked him calmly, but my mind conjured up the scene. Sophie sobbing on the porch, their belongings in trash bags, and Nathan in sweatpants stunned. I experienced a heavy silence, like the air following a lightning strike, but no delight. With my phone off and the red folder on the table acting as a talisman, I remained in my room and ate oatmeal from the hotel microwave. Nathan's voice was raw with rage when the message came in at 10:42 a.m. "I don't know what you did, Mom, but we're out. You ruined our lives. I hope you're content." As if I had set off the fuse they had constructed, there was no apology, just blame. "We're evicted." Evelyn Sophie texted hours later, her words a last-ditch appeal. "Well done. Knowing that you ruined your family, I hope you get a good night's sleep." That term, family, stuck to me like a sore thumb. When I gave them $200,000, when I prepared their meals, and when I put up with their taunts, they referred to me as family. They used me as a scapegoat now. I went to the corner store, purchased a notepad, and wrote the words, "Today, they lost everything." I didn't respond. I discovered my quiet. The words grounded me, prompting me to self-promise that I was more than their tale. Nathan and Sophie were warriors, so I knew they wouldn't stop. Their next move would be bolder and more desperate, and I had to be ready for it. My hand had been pushed by their betrayal, which included their covert $100,000 loan falling into foreclosure, and whispered plans to force me out for a nursery. Their life was unraveling, and their social media posts portrayed me as the antagonist. I had signed the release, allowing their house to slip away. My anchor was the red folder with the deed bank documents and foreclosure paperwork, but I knew they would strike again because of their growing desperation. While sitting on the hotel bed, I wrote in my open notebook that they had lost their house. I discovered my strength. The silence before a storm became thicker in the days following the lockout. A masterwork of manipulation. Sophie's pastel-hued slideshow, "When Family Betrays You," went viral on Instagram. Her story of embracing a bereaved mother, only to be caught off guard by legal trickery, sparked a barrage of comments from strangers praising her bravery and calling it elder abuse. Nathan added, "Fuel, you saved our future." Devastation was her choice. Messages from my pastor cousin Lila and old friends flooded my phone with the question, "Evelyn, is this true?" I remained mute despite their hurtful remarks, remembering my father's advice to keep out of the dirt. With my heart burning steadfastly against their falsehoods, I saved every text and post to my folder. Then there was a sudden piercing tap on my hotel door. I looked through the peephole and saw Doreen, a woman in her mid-50s from the Municipal Housing Board, whose face I recognized from a potluck at church years prior. "I saw the posts, Evelyn," she stated in a gentle yet stern tone. "I want your side." As we sat in the motel lobby, coffee cooling between us, I revealed everything: the insults, the loan Nathan concealed, the $200,000, and the foreclosure I allowed to occur. With a steady gaze and no notes, just presence, she listened. She gave me her card and promised housing assistance, which was a glimmer of hope in my otherwise gloomy world. "I'm not press," she added, "but I'm tired of influencers twisting truth for clicks." Raleigh Monthly sent me an interview request that evening. It was marked, "Hold for now," meaning I wasn't ready to talk yet, but I was laying the groundwork. Next, Sophie took a more daring step. In a TikTok video, she is shown carrying a banner that reads, "Evicted by my mother-in-law," while standing in front of a U-Haul with mascara smudged and a baby belly apparent. It had 90,000 views and comments requesting media attention, one of which offered a GoFundMe. "Can we chat, Evelyn?" my pastor texted me. I fought against the pressure that was threatening to overwhelm me. I took out the red folder containing the loan default notice, the deed-printed copies of Sophie's texts, and the phrase, "Once she's gone, we can plan the nursery." I emailed it all, no words, just proof to my pastor, my cousins, and the church group chat. My niece replied via text, stating that she lied to everyone. After then, there was silence as their story broke like a thin layer of ice. A week later, there was another knock. I caught a glimpse of Sophie through the peephole, her hair unkempt, holding a baby in a pink blanket and carrying a high-end diaper bag on her shoulder. "I'm not here to fight, Evelyn," she called in a quiet voice. "We can't find our way." With the baby's small squeak piercing my heart, I begged. I let her in by opening the door. "We're falling apart," she said, her eyes red as she rocked the child Emily she added, named after me, on the bed. "We owe thousands. Nathan is broken, and our accounts are stopped." I wanted to believe her when she said, "Help us for her." But then I noticed a tag on the brand new $900 diaper bag. I pointed and remarked, "That's new." "A gift," she said too quickly. My voice was icy as I stood. "Are you sure you're recording this?" Her mouth opened, then shut. With a phone glistening in the pocket of the bag, she confessed, "We just wanted proof." With a sharp voice, I said, "Get out." She gripped Emily and said, "Take your props and leave." "She's your grandchild." I took a step forward. "She is your kid." She departed, the door clicking shut as my hands trembled with adrenaline rather than dread. "Raise her better than you live." I strolled to the courthouse the morning following Sophie's visit, moving as steadily as a river. I calmly handed over copies of Sophie's nursery text, Nathan's scathing voicemail, and the $900 diaper bag tag from her desperate appeal as I filed for a temporary restraining order. The clerk nodded, a weary-looking woman. As she stamped the paperwork, she remarked, "You're not alone in this." Like a tree standing firmly after a storm, I felt resolve rather than triumph. "They brought a youngster to trap me," I wrote in my journal back at the hotel. I brought the truth, with a sticky note that read, "You chose this path." I shipped a duplicate of the purchase to Nathan and Sophie's previous address. Avoid it. There was clarity, a line in the sand, and no anger. Doreen from the housing board called that afternoon, her voice as pleasant as the sun. My heart soared when I heard, "Evelyn, we have a place for you, a 2-bedroom condo in Wilmington with an ocean view and rent that fits within your pension." The next day, I traveled to witness the white walls of the apartment glinting in the sunlight, as well as the sea, whispering from a tiny balcony. After a week, I dragged my bags, David's picture, and the red folder across the threshold, and moved in after signing the lease with a steady pen. Here the stillness was different, soft like a breeze, through open windows rather than heavy. I took my time unpacking, setting a seashell with blue-silver edges called Peace on the counter from a boardwalk cellar. Days later, my tale appeared in Raleigh Monthly as a 3-page feature headed, "A Mother's Trust Betrayed." I provided them all of my supporting documentation, including the diaper bag photo receipts and the deed, but I had one requirement: begin with "This is not retribution. Clarity is here." Although the article didn't go viral, it had a significant impact on Raleigh, igniting conversations about truth, family, and greed in coffee shops and church groups. My name was no longer associated with a curse, but rather represented a question mark symbolizing a lady who had reclaimed her narrative, while the Facebook community that Sophie had labeled as a scam began discussing entitlement and inheritance. I didn't need their sympathy or judgment, and I didn't read the comments. I was sufficient. I didn't talk about Nathan or open that locked drawer. But after a few weeks, I settled into a routine coffee at dawn walks by the seaside and art sessions with Walter, a 70-year-old prankster, who referred to my paintings as survivor's work. Then Nathan's sloppy handwriting appeared on a letter that was postmarked from a Charlotte P.O. box. I can't take it back. I don't ask for pardon. I'm making an effort. Evelyn Carter is her name. I folded it next to the voided deed after reading it twice and felt nothing. No sadness or rage, just a sense of remoteness, like a shoreline moving away. The waves were a constant song as I went barefoot in the sand to the beach that evening. I considered Nathan the youngster who had once stolen flowers for me, but was now a man lost to his choices, and Emily, a child I would never meet. They were no longer a burden to me. My phone rang one evening when I was enjoying some tea on my balcony. It was a text from an unidentified number that said, "We're starting over." You prevailed. Sophie's remarks were piercing but meaningless. With no response and no change in my composure, I erased it. The next day, I amended my will to remove Nathan's name and donate my funds to an animal sanctuary, a literacy program, and a women's shelter. I wrote to my lawyer, publicly reveal everything if they contest it. I placed a tiny picture of a wave breaking in the moonlight that I purchased on the boardwalk over my couch. The apartment was constructed on my truth rather than their ruins, and it shined golden. It was my place and my tranquility. What do you think about this story? If you've ever felt belittled, used, or betrayed by your own family, you probably understand all too well the pain this mother went through. It wasn't just about losing money. It was the kind of betrayal that tightens your chest and makes your heart ache. But just like her, we all have the right to say, enough, to stand up and reclaim our worth and our voice. If you found this story thought-provoking, please share it with your friends or family. Someone out there might need this reminder that they deserve respect. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next stories, real-life lessons that can be raw and painful but need to be told. Thank you for watching and listening.